Dr. Sam Amadi. I mean, many of you also know who Dr. Sam Amadi is. Dr. Sam Amadi would quickly take the podium now and address the meeting here for 10 minutes. Dr. Sam Amadi, may you kindly take the virtual lectern. Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm glad to be here and privileged to listen to Iyom in her welcome address. And of course, I hear Professor Badinaji in the keynote. And then my brother and friend, Onaga, Senator Badibe, is in the keynote actually. And then our sister. Let me just make some quick point about women and leadership, generally, and of course in Igbo. First is that I think women should lead naturally, because in some of the materials I've read in leadership, in fact, even this COVID, we've seen one of the patterns, the emerging pattern is that countries run by women seem to have done well, better than countries run by men, generally speaking. And the reason still people are thinking about it, but one of the reasons given is the way women lead with more complexity, listening to diverse voices, have capability to work around problems, and then essentially empathy. And that has defined the search for policies that work in a more complex world where there are too many contentions around voices and interests. So women leadership seem to be typically capable of harnessing diversity better, of focusing on vulnerability, and on creating resilience. And it's not difficult to understand because anatomically or biologically, the woman gene is more resilient, stronger than the male. And so the question is, why not many women leading, especially in our own place? That's a puzzle. Again, research done by Gallup and others have shown that companies run by women are also outperforming companies run by men in general relative sense. If you look at the number of companies women are managing. And so there's some report that shows that it's actually seen better to work where women lead. So, and then if Madume and others have also argued, clearly shown by evidence that in our traditional society, women have also played more prominent role than that they're probably playing now. So it's not really true that culturally we are as damned as we are now. No, we have culturally, I think one can argue that there's more complexity. Women have more role, and women seem to do better than they're doing now because of structural issues. And that brings me to the second point I'd like to make. Many years ago, when I was doing some consulting for Nkoye, many, over 10, 50 years ago, on women issue, I've always had a view that the most important enabler for more women participation is dealing with the structural constraints rather than affirmative action. For example, if you look at when we had zero party option, more women became local government chairman for the simple reason that women are likely to be more popular, very popular in their communities. And so if you have people to choose their leaders with less structural imposition, women will most likely will emerge more, because if you do voting today without party in some communities, and a woman stands to run election, Mama Nenna, whose charisma, who has been benevolent, who is well known helping people, would most likely win Papa Sam Amadi because of natural charisma. But once you start tolling the process, so you have to meet the local government chairman, know the state ESCO, then come to the national and know the national working committee, you will see that the women bargaining power gets structurally filtered away. So women find it difficult to run the whole gamut of those obstacles. And that explains why societies that are more democratic, more grassroots based, women will do better than when we start building structures that exclude women. And so we begin to do with token of free, don't pay for domination fee, maybe one woman should come in. So those are efforts to try to deal with those structural crises. But if we remove those structural crises, reduce the campaign funding, financing, allow people, candidates to deal with people directly, women will do better. So just to give our advocates on the field, that while we look for those other tokenistic responses, but we should also focus on how do we get politics to be more about the people, remove structural hindrances, women will do better. And that takes me quickly to what I want to talk about, the idea of the Igbo of the past and Igbo of today, and the notion of prosperity. Our biggest challenge, and that's the view I hold, that the biggest challenge for the Igbo people today is how do we create more wealth and build greater technological capability. We know, and we all debate about our fate in Nigeria, whether we're going to pull out like a helicopter from heaven will carry us out of Nigeria, whether we're going to struggle to reform Nigeria, whether we're going to endure the Nigerian oppression. That's debate. But what is clear in my mind is we need to reinvest quality leadership in our homeland, Alibo, stretching from the southeast to south-south, and even wherever we have significant Igbo community. And therefore, this focus on leadership, I'm a student of Emma Wara, student of Samubakwe partly. And what Emma Wara era did, interesting, we were top in economic performance, education. People forget, apart from missionary schools, the only place we had government-owned schools in Nigeria as early as then was in the Southeast. Public libraries, first in the Southeast, what we call now Eastern Nigeria, basically. Cottage industry. In less than 5-10 years, Southeast become the highest IGR contributor. And of course, everybody now knows that it was the fastest growing economy in the world, but not just growing in terms of numbers, it was growing in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, welfare, some of the things that women, mothers, and our sisters care a lot about, quality of life. And so for me, that's what I look at. How do we create an ecosystem that fosters prosperity, creates equity, creates collective decision-making? And interestingly, the Eastern Nigeria then was not just about, technocratic production. So we had the Southeast Development Corporation that brought the bright and the best and the brightest to come together and create wealth at an astounding rate. But beyond that is the quality of political conciliation. It didn't have the level of political gangsterism we have today, where some persons arrogate to themselves. We saw collegial leadership. Emma Okpara and a collection of these great Igbo leaders were able to work together in the spirit of democratic leadership, real democracy. We saw great consensus building, and the result was the Southeast overtook its competitors at that period of time. So I want to emphasize 3 things in this narrative. The first is the focus on ensuring that our quality, it doesn't have to be PhDs or professors. The best and the brightest don't need to be academics. It could be even market men and women, but persons who show pedigree. We saw people like C.S. Mwapa, they are not academics, they are industrialists, who are part of that magic. Different people came in, professors and others, they were part of that. So it's a sense of getting back to our cultural value of selecting people based on the task they have to take. And that's why in the Igbo culture, wealth is revered, age is revered, talent is revered. So everything is revered and they are put in their proper place. So I think that part of the advocacy that women will take upon is to find a way in their typical style of not being violent and aggressive and walking around problem, to find a way to restore back this sense of leadership, this sense of leadership recruitment based not on attrition, where one person explodes his way to power, whether you're number 4 on the voters list, on the result sheet, or you're number 1 or number 10, you just explode yourself. But in a way that, we respect process and we allow leaders, elders, and every other person come to a certain level of peaceful recruitment of leadership based on quality, on talent, and their commitment to the common good. The second thing I think our great women and mothers and sisters can do is also an advocacy around restoring some level of communitarianism, some level of collective well-being. It's true that we are individualists in the sense that everybody wants to get better, and that helps us build wealth, build competencies, because nobody wants to eternally depend on another person. But it's also true that we're people who know how to work together, who know how to defer, who know how to build the community. And that's one of the things Abraham Wankwa said, and I take it seriously. He says, if you are not contributing value to the community, you are not useful. So one of the things we should go back to do is to advocate for a sense of community well-being. That is very important so that our individualism, our individual enterprise and innovative spirit does not become a problem for our survival as a people. And our women are better, our sisters and mothers are in a better position to lead this advocacy because they have proven over time to be a voice that's much more focused on community and collective well-being than the male voice. And the third aspect of the advocacy that I think that this group and other leadership in terms, we used to crowdsourcing is part of our heritage as a people. It's part of our legacy. So we can as well develop and deepen collective financial support, which has been part of all the community. I was active when we built Imo Airport, the first collective community-based project of that scale in Nigeria, maybe the only one airport that's built through voluntary contribution. That's one of the iconic evidence of this spirit of collective crowdsourcing of resources, either to help each other stand, but also better to build economic sustainable livelihood systems. I'm convinced that our struggle in Nigeria and globally is a marathon. And what will give us the edge is that we become a people of great wealth, not in terms of buildings and show, but people who find themselves capable of financing even the most complex defense mechanism. Let me tell you what I think about our future. Whether we live in Nigeria or we stay in Nigeria, we're going to be a people who are going to be perpetually troubled by our neighbors. Imagine a Nigeria where wealth keeps expanding in the south and poverty, as expected, keeps compounding in the north. It's a Nigeria that will be like Middle East. It's a Nigeria that will be like Israel surrounded by Palestinians. And so one lesson of the history of the Jews in a difficult hostile environment is that if not for wealth and technology, they'll be finished. And so we'll be people who focus decidedly and consciously on creating wealth so that even as we see Nigeria getting poorer every day, we can see the southern Igbo region, whether south and southeast, becoming the region of wealth. And with that, with good governance and wealth, with value orientation, will be the technology that will enable us to minimize the risk that we're going to have in being either in the same country with some of our brothers or being neighbors with some of our brothers in what's going to be decades of violence, decades of bitterness, and decades of acrimony. So for me, my heart desire is that we optimize our head start on wealth creation collectively. We focus on science and technology. We build up competencies and social capital to be resilient in the face of extreme provocation and what's going to be extreme hatred and warfare in the next 20, perhaps to 200 years. That's our destiny. We're going to be a people who are going to be facing persecution, facing attack, but our survival will be to be a people of wealth, collective wealth, technology, knowledge, and leadership that is grounded in the values of respect for knowledge. history, from the cultural studies, from about women, from about different customs and community, women are tremendous assets, not just because of their numbers, not just because of their recorded and noted capacity for accomplishment in academia, business, leadership, but because of the fact that they bring the yin opposing the yang of our leadership culture. So where the men are going to be probably individualistic and too much competitive and winner takes all, the women will bring that subtlety, that resilience, that collective interest, and that capacity to think not just of now, but of the future, not just about themselves, but about their children, their husbands, and the well-being of the community. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah.